Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, whatever time it is. This is Mr. Mitzel bringing you the lesson for Friday, November 20th, 2020. All right, now you're probably already in the module, but let me just show you in case you navigate away. Head to modules. You'll see Friday right here at the top. You're going to click on Begin Here, Video and Learning Target. This is where you found the video. Of course, it's not posted here yet because I'm currently making the video. Let's go over your learning target. By the end of class, I will be able to edit for errors in sentences with commas and coordinated conjunctions. I will show I can do this by scoring at least a 70% on my exit ticket. Now, without navigating away, because you do want to be able to flip back and forth between the video and the assignment, we want to go on to the next part. You could open this in a new tab, or you could just run a second tab with the video in YouTube. All right, here's your do now. Read the following short excerpt about Maya Angelou. After you've read the passage, open the text entry box by clicking the blue Submit Assignment button here at the top. Copy and paste the text into the box. You're going to copy this. Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste it in the box below. Reread the text as if you were the editor about to publish this article. Highlight and correct any errors that you find. You're going to look for capitalization, punctuation, and word choice. There are 7 errors in total that need to be corrected. All right, go ahead and pause the video and come back once you're finished. All right, were you able to find all of the errors? Did you find all 7? Let's go over what I found. This sentence here, following this trauma, Angelou, her last name wasn't capitalized. You always capitalize a proper noun. Sought refuge in silence. She refused to use her words. That was 2 separate sentences. They forgot to put in a period and a capital letter. So far, we found A in Angelou, the period, and the capital letter she. That's a total of 3. She refused to use her words, but she didn't lose her love for them. We forgot to put this comma in. We're going to look at that today, so keep this one in mind. I'm actually going to highlight it a different color for you. We're going to highlight this one in green. Green means go. We'll come back. Even though she wouldn't speak, Angelou's studies is what it did say, and needed to be studied and memorized poems. The reason that it's studied and not studies is because of this one over here. They need to match. And it was in the past, so both have to be in the past tense. And poems was erroneously capitalized. That means it was capitalized for no reason. All right, let's look down here. A desire to express her love for poetry by speaking it aloud helped draw Angelou out of her mutism. Yet, there's another one of those missing commas. Notice something here. We have a word like but. We have a word like yet. These are what we call fanboys words, and you probably remember them from another year. Today, we're going to be looking at coordinating conjunctions and a couple of subordinating conjunctions as well. But and yet are just 2 of our fanboys words, or subordinating conjunctions. Coordinated conjunctions, I'm sorry. We're going to look at that in detail. All right, if you haven't submitted yet and you waited to check your work, that's fine. Go ahead and click Submit. After your assignment is submitted and you receive the confetti, go to the bottom and click Next. All right, these are your notes. This is where they're located. And you'll have access to them, but I think for the time being, it's probably best for you to just follow along on the video. I'm going to talk you through some of this, and then you're going to practice on your own. All right, let's talk about sentences and sentence fragments, keeping it together. If you go into the notes, there's a really cool explanation. It's a really easy 3-minute video about subjects and predicates. Remember, the subject is what the sentence is about. The predicate is what the subject is doing. You can watch this on your own. Pause this video and play this video. All right, now that you're back, what is a subject? A subject tells who or what the sentence is about. For instance, that video had a subject and it was Mr. Morton. What is the predicate? Well, the predicate of the sentence tells something about the subject. It's what they did. It's usually an action. It can be a linking verb, but it's a verb phrase. Mr. Morton blushes. Blushes is what he did. It's action. Let's look at some examples. Young people enjoy time with friends. I'm going to ask who or what is this sentence about? Well, it's about young people. Well, what do young people do? They enjoy time with their friends. Enjoy time with their friends is the predicate. Teachers are the greatest. We're going to ask ourselves, who or what is this about? Now, you're not going to say it's about greatest. You're going to say it's about teachers. What's the subject? Teachers. What did they do? Well, they are the greatest. So they're not doing an action in this, but it's telling us something about them. I actually rode on a roller coaster. Who or what is this sentence about? It's not about roller coasters because they're not doing anything here. Yeah, it's I. It's about me. Well, what did I do? I rode on a roller coaster. Here's the last one. Do your homework tonight. Ah, who or what is this sentence about? Is it about homework? Well, what's the homework doing? Nothing. It's not about homework. How about tonight? Is tonight doing something? No. It's about you. It's a command telling you to do your homework. So we're going to ask ourselves, what's the subject? It's you, just understood to be. What are you doing? Hopefully your homework. All right. Let's look at a sentence now. A sentence is a group of words that contains a subject and a predicate, both parts, like we just saw. It expresses a complete thought. It begins with a capital letter and it ends with a period, a question mark, or an exclamation point. Well, then what's an independent clause? Here's a little secret. An independent clause is exactly the same thing as a sentence. What does the word independent mean? It means it can be by itself. It can stand alone. A clause is a group of words that has a subject and a predicate. So when we say an independent clause, we're saying a group of words that has a subject and a predicate and can stand alone or stand on its own as a sentence. So a sentence is also called an independent clause. An independent clause is all by itself and can stand alone. So then we have something called a dependent clause. Do you remember I said a clause is a group of words that has a subject and a predicate? But it depends on more information. It can't stand by itself and still make sense. Even though it has a subject and the subject is doing something, it's not enough information to express a complete thought. So here's an example. Since we laughed is not enough information. There's something missing. As I walked to school. As I walked to school doesn't express a complete thought, but let me put my cursor over this first section and now look at it. It says, I walked to school. Who or what is this about? It's about me, I. What did I do? I walked to school. When I add this word at the front, it makes it dependent on more information to make sense. Well, here's the tip. A dependent clause looks like a sentence, but it doesn't express a complete thought. It depends on another sentence, well, another independent clause for meaning. We often call these sentence fragments. Here's a couple of patterns for you. A simple sentence is just one independent clause followed by a period. A compound sentence is an independent clause joined with another independent clause. And do you remember I showed you that word but and the word yet? Those are our fanboys words. They're coordinating conjunctions. So a compound sentence is an independent clause with the fanboys and a comma followed by another independent clause. We'll look at this more in depth. Finally, we have a sentence called a complex sentence. It has an independent clause and a dependent clause. And there's two different versions of these. There's some where the independent clause comes first and others where the independent clause comes second. But either way, it has one of each. We'll look at these in detail as well. All right, what I want you to do is write a simple sentence. So grab your notebook, pause this video, and just write a simple sentence that makes sense. Make it about you and just say you did something. Don't use the word and, don't use the word but, okay? A simple sentence, try to keep it 4 or 5 words. All right, what did you come up with? Here's mine. I like vanilla ice cream. There's the word and isn't in it or anything. Who or what likes vanilla ice cream? Well, I do. Okay, what did I do in the sentence? Well, I liked that kind of ice cream. It's a simple sentence. It makes sense. It expresses a complete thought, and I would have had a period at the end. Now I want you to write one compound sentence and use this as your guide up here. Write out something like, I like ice cream, comma, but, and then write another one. Here's my example. I like vanilla ice cream, comma, but Mrs. Mitzel doesn't. You see that? Mrs. Mitzel doesn't like vanilla ice cream can stand on its own as another sentence. Let's try it with a complex sentence. It's a sentence that's going to start with a dependent clause. Let me give you a hint on this one. Let's go back. Look at this word, since and as. Can you start your sentence with since? So if you started out with since I like vanilla ice cream, comma, then attach it to another complete sentence. Pause the video and come back and check your answer. All right, I hope you didn't have trouble with that. You may have, and we're going to look at these in detail again, so just wait. My complex sentence, since I like vanilla ice cream, comma, I don't like chocolate ice cream, is a complex sentence. It's because this second part, the independent, I don't like chocolate ice cream, that can stand on its own, but since I like vanilla, cannot. Let's look at some simple sentences. Martin walked to the store. Makes sense, can stand on its own, expresses a complete thought. This is also an independent clause. He bought candy with his allowance. Also, an independent clause. It can stand on its own. It's a simple sentence. It has a period at the end. Now, if we want to make a compound sentence, we're going to use our fanboys words. Conjunctions include for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Now, here's the thing before we go any further. Just because you see the word and, or just because you see the word for, or the word or, does not mean that it's going to be fanboys. It's only a fanboys word when it joins two simple sentences. Martin walked to the store and bought gum. Can bought gum stand on its own? It can't. It's not an independent clause. That means that we can't use a comma with the word and. Here's another example. I'm going to join Martin walked to the store and he bought candy with his allowance. So I said he bought gum earlier. I just said Martin walked to the store and bought gum. This part is missing. Remember, we have to evaluate to see if this is a complete sentence. Then we look at everything after the fanboys word. If it just said, take out the word he, bought candy with his allowance. Can bought candy with his allowance stand on its own? No, it can't. It doesn't tell you who it was. Since it can't stand on its own, we wouldn't use the comma. But since we have he bought candy with his allowance, we can use the comma because it can stand on its own. Here's another one. If I take a dependent clause, like while walking to the store, it cannot stand on its own. It is not a complete sentence. And I link it with Martin found $1. I'm going to use a comma. While walking to the store, comma, Martin found $1. If the first part can't stand on its own, it's dependent, it must be separated from the independent part. Martin found $1. It's a sentence by itself. One final rule. If I started out with Martin found $1, which is a independent clause, and then I follow it up with while walking to the store, that part can't stand by itself, but it comes second in the sentence. We don't use a comma. We call those words at the beginning, like since and as, we call them SWABI words. The reason that we call them SWABI words is because most of them start with one of these letters. So here we go. We've got since, that's the S. W, look at all the W's. When, whenever, where, whereas, wherever, while. A's, like after, although, as if, as long as. B, we see words like because and before. Or I, if, or in order that. Here's a few to just test ourselves with. Take a look at this. After passing their road test, many students drive to high school. Listen to how I read it. After passing their road test, my voice kind of went down. Then it says, many students drive to high school. I can probably divide it right here in the middle, just because of the two different ideas. Now let's evaluate the first part. After passing their road test, can that stand on its own? No, it's dependent. If I look back in my notes, if a dependent clause comes first, I'm going to use a comma. Here's a little formula. Dependent first, then a comma, then I should have an independent to make it complex. Let's check. Many students drive to high school. Can that stand on its own? Yes, it sure can. I'm going to put a comma here to divide it. Let's look at the second one. While working to get gas money, some students get a part-time job. Did you hear where I paused? While working to get gas money, this cannot stand on its own. And I see there's a W word here at the beginning. Looking back at my list, while is one of my SWABI words. I'm going to have to put a comma after money, just so long as the rest of it is its own sentence. Some students get a part-time job. That makes total sense by itself. It's just a true statement. Here's the next one, number 3. I drove to school most days and I had to pay for my own fuel. There's a fanboys word, and. I'm going to ignore it for a minute and I'm going to look at everything else. I drove to school most days. Can that stand on its own? Who or what drove to school most days? I did. What did I do? I drove to school. Yes, that makes sense by itself. It's its own sentence. Looking at the part afterwards, I had to pay for my own fuel. Who or what is this sentence about? It's about me. What did I have to do? Pay for my own fuel. Yes, that's its own sentence. I have an independent clause and an independent clause with a SWABI word with a fanboys word in the middle linking them. I'm going to have to use a comma. I'm going to go double check myself right here. There's my fanboys. I have an independent clause with a fanboys and another independent clause. My formula says independent, comma, fanboys, independent, makes it compound. Here's our last one. Some parents pay for the student's car, yet other parents do not. There's the word yet. I know that's a fanboys. It's the Y in fanboys. Some parents pay for the student's car. That makes sense by itself. I'm going to probably need a comma. Let's read this part. Other parents do not. Other parents do not is a sentence by itself. Even though we don't have other parents do not pay, the word pay doesn't have to be there. It makes sense. Here's a couple more to look at. When Stephen handed in his homework, he forgot to give the teacher the last page. In your notebook, I want you to write down where you would put the comma. Then I want you to tell me if there's a Swabi word or if there's a Fanboys word. I'll pause and let you do that. All right. Where did you put the comma? Did you put it right here between homework and he? I hope you did. That's the correct placement. Did you find the Swabi word? It's right here. When? You can go back and look at the list and you'll see that if a sentence starts with when, you're always going to have a dependent clause in the beginning. Now, how did I know to put it here? Well, I'm going to look at the word he. He forgot to give the teacher the last page. That makes sense by itself. I know that's an independent clause. Everything before that cannot stand on its own. When Stephen handed in his homework, no, that's not a sentence. I have to put a comma there. Pause the video, and I'd like you to decide where to put the commas in each of these. Each of them need a comma. All right, let's take a look at what you came up with. Mary decided to play football. That can stand on its own. I see there's a Fanboys word. Madison went shopping. That can stand on its own. I need a comma before the Fanboys word. It'll go between football and so. Number 3, after the football game ended, there was a natural pause. That cannot stand on its own. I see after. That's a Swabi word. It's on the list. The players walked off the field. That can stand on its own. It's its own sentence. The comma goes between ended and players. Here's the last one. You need to write in pencil on the test, and you must fill in the bubbles completely. Now, I immediately saw the word and I know that that's a Fanboys word, but I have to test it to see if I have 2 independent clauses. You need to write in pencil on the test. That can stand on its own. You must fill in the bubbles completely. That also can stand on its own. Here's my Fanboys. I need to use a comma. And remember, the comma goes in right in the front, right before the Fanboys word. Now, on your screen, I'd like you to click Next. I want you to go to the independent practice. Here's what you're going to try. If you need to have the notes open, I expect you to open them because it is an Open Notes assignment. Click on the blue Submit Assignment button at the top to open the text box. Just like you did with the Do Now, you're going to copy and paste these into the text box. Then underline each clause. So you're going to underline like the first part, and then you'll underline the second part. Put the Fanboys conjunctions, use in bold. So this first one, Carrie called the fire department. I'm going to underline it. They arrived very quickly. I'm going to underline it. Then I'm going to bold the Fanboys word. I'm going to put a comma to separate my clauses when I need to. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to put my comma right before and then I'm going to label this. Is this compound or complex? I plus I is compound. Hopefully that made sense. If it didn't, you need to go back to the notes. I'll show you exactly where to get those notes, okay? We'll go back to the previous page. Your notes will load right here. Now, which page has those formulas on it? You're going to go to slide 13 and slide 14. Right down here at the bottom is the formula. An independent can stand alone with a comma and a Fanboys, followed by another independent can stand alone is complex. Slide 14 is the dependent and no Fanboys with a comma and the independent. Makes it complex. I might keep this open if just for quick reference. After you're done, go ahead and click Submit. And here's the last thing we're going to do before we get into your exit ticket for today. We're going to read a portion of I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. Our goal is to get to this paragraph right here where it says, although the syrupy golden rings sat in their exotic cans. I want you to read that one, okay? You don't need to go any further than that. But what we want to do, and I want to just caution you, you're going to open the blue text. You're going to open the text box by clicking the blue button. You're going to read the text. I want you to notice sentences that have those independent clauses, the fanboys and a comma, as well as independent clauses with swabby words. Can you find 2 examples of both types in the text? Copy the whole sentence. That's it. You're not writing anything. You're not correcting anything. You're just locating them. If you want to get really fancy, you can highlight the fanboys and the swabby words if you want to. Now, I do want to caution you about something, and it's about how she writes. When you get down here, you'll see in this paragraph, she starts her sentence with and. This is not an example of fanboys. It's just not. We didn't talk about and being the first word in the sentence. She does this stylistically, okay? Here's another one. She uses the word for in the beginning of a sentence. This is something to do with phrases that we haven't learned yet. So don't get tripped up. Remember what I said in the beginning? Just because it has a fanboy's word doesn't mean that it is a fanboy's sentence, okay? We're going to work together on the beginning. I'd like you to follow along, and let's see if we can maybe find one example together. Now, you're not going to use this to satisfy your 2, but we're just going to look to see if we can find one. All right, I've opened my text box down here at the bottom, and you should too. Follow along with me. I'm going to read out loud, and if you're looking at your screen, you should be able to do the same. We lived with our grandmother and uncle in the rear of the store. It was always spoken of with a capital S, which he had owned for some 25 years. Early in the century, Mama, we soon stopped calling her grandmother, sold lunches to the sawmen in the lumber yard, East Stamps, and the seedmen at the cotton gin, West Stamps. Here's an and. It's a fanboy's word, but is it acting like one? There's not a comma. The seedmen at the cotton gin. Can that stand on its own? No, it can't. So we know that this does not need the comma. Her crisp meat pies and cool lemonade, when joined with her miraculous ability to be in 2 places at the same time, assured her business success. From being a mobile lunch counter, she set up a stand between the 2 points of fiscal interest and supplied the workers' needs for a few years. Then she had the store built in the heart of the Negro area. Over the years, it became the lay center of activities in town. On Saturdays, barbers sat their customers in the shade on the porch of the store, and troubadours on their ceaseless crawlings through the South leaned across its benches and sang their songs, their sad songs of the Brazos while they played juice harps and cigar box guitars. Now, this sentence right here is really, really long. I'm going to copy this and just show you how to do it. I know I'm not copying the whole sentence, but that's a really complicated, it's actually a compound complex sentence, but I'm only going to take a piece to show you. I'm going to edit it up just a little bit. You can do this just for practice if you want to. Look at what we have here. Here is, I'm going to highlight it, make it bold. Here's our fanboys word. Barbers sat their customers in the shade on the porch of the store. Barbers sat their customers in the shade on the porch of the store. That can stand on its own. It's its own sentence. It makes complete sense. Next, it says, troubadours on their ceaseless crawlings through the South leaned across its benches. What did the troubadours do? Well, they leaned across its benches. That can stand on its own. We know that this is a compound sentence, right? This is just an example. I want you to continue reading, and I want you to find, again, an example of two examples of compound and two examples of complex. In fact, when I was scrolling, I saw several good examples. When you're all finished, you're going to click submit. We're going to finish reading this text on Monday, so you don't need to finish reading it, just enough to get your compound and complex sentences pasted in, and you've submitted your assignment. Now, once you're finished, you're going to complete your exit ticket. Go to the bottom and click next. Your exit ticket is going to be 10 questions. You don't have to type or edit. You are going to take this quiz. It'll only give you one shot, only one chance. So do your best, take your time, and do not rush. As always, if you have any questions, you can email me or you can send me a message through Canvas, and I'll be happy to answer you. I will see you on Monday. Have a fantastic weekend. Bye-bye.